of Lee and Jane Callowert with Dragonfly Tile. We've teamed up and now we've started this thing we call ART, Artisan Revolution in Tile, and we're teaching other tile contractors how to do exactly what we're doing. So we put on a 4-day class. It's this will be our third one this year, but it's a 4-day class. We take on 16 people and we teach them, how to confidently sell a job, design it, fabricate it, pre-mount it and install it all in 4 days. So it's a really intensive class. Everybody's immersed in art from the second they get there.
Well, hello, Joshua. How are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you doing today?
It's good. We're getting a lot of rain here in Atlanta. How about yourselves up there in Homer,
Well,
Alaska?
you would think for being this close to Christmas in Alaska, we would have snow, but we have had a lot of rain and it's just kind of been a miserable, dreary winter so far.
Oh, man. So you like the snow?
Yeah, that's why I moved here. I love the snow. We love to go play in the snow. We got a lot of snowmobiles and outdoor gear. It's kind of our gig.
That sounds fun. I mean, I've done my share of snowboarding, but I was born in California and raised in Georgia, so it's like hot land,
Kind of the opposite.
Mm-hmm. Where are you from originally?
I'm from Battleground, Washington, which is southern Washington on just north of the Columbia River, kind of Portland, Vancouver metro area.
I know exactly. I used to live in Portland, Oregon, so I know that area a little bit.
Yeah.
Just a tiny bit. Well, we're just so pleased that you are with us on the Up Your Tile Game podcast because as we got this started, it's only been a few months now. Our goal is, to connect community and all the different facets in which people come together using tile. It's a very fascinating art form, and we just enjoy exploring all of that, the different guests. So your company is Tierra Tile, is that right?
That's correct, yeah.
Awesome. Well, if you would just start us off like telling us how you got started in this and how you formed your company, and then we'll go into a little bit about what you do.
Well, it was a complete accident. I always did carpentry out of high school, and in high school I did a lot of pottery, a lot of art classes, and I got a kiln right out of high school, and I had the opportunity to make some tiles for a friend, and made some tiles for a friend's entryway and stair risers, and that was kind of the first thing I did, and the light went off in my head and was like, oh, I can probably do something with this. So I originally went into it wanting to do handmade tile, and at one time I had like 4 kilns and I had a whole ceramic studio, and I was making tile, but it was a lot harder to sell handmade mosaics than it was to start doing hand cut mosaics. So originally I was wanting to just make my own tiles, and then I kind of gradually got away from that. The main reason is one winter my studio froze and all of my clay and glaze froze. So,
oh my gosh!
I couldn't afford to replace it all, and then I was just on a job where I was like, hey, I could probably try cutting some tile, and I started off with travertine, a little softer, stone. And started cutting tile and figured, wow, I could do the same thing. So, as the handmade and just skip a lot of steps. So that's kind of where it all came from. I was an artist, just kind of an artist at heart. And then I just figured I should probably start learning how to install tile if I want to do this tile thing. So that's kind of, it's just kind of all by accident. And here I am 20 plus years later.
20 plus years. Wow. And did you start in Washington and then move it up to Homer, or were you already there in Homer?
Well, no, it's a long story. I moved down to a town called Bisbee, Arizona, which is like 5 miles north of Mexico in southeast Arizona.
Wow.
And I was doing carpentry down there with a friend that I'd met down there, and that's where the name Tierra Tile comes from. He had a business called Tierra Madre del Sur. And I thought Tierra sounded cool with tile. So I was like, hey, you mind if I borrow Tierra? So that's where Tierra Tile was born, was down in Arizona. I made a couple projects down there. And then I actually drove his truck up to Alaska because he needed it. He had a tool truck he needed driven up here, and he couldn't go through the Canadian border because he had a previous DUI on his record.
Oh, gosh.
I drove his truck up with my girlfriend at the time, and we stayed the whole summer up here. and fell in love with Alaska. And I just headed north, and I've been up here ever since.
Headed north.
Yeah,
Wow. How's it living up there for you guys?
it's great. It's hard to imagine living anywhere else.
Mm.
It's you spend any time up here, um, it's hard to imagine living anywhere else. You leave, you go visit people, and then you just can't wait to get home. Um, the people up here are super friendly. It's you got a lot of elbow room. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we don't all live in igloos like people think. I mean, you see, we've got drywall and windows. So, Homer's,
I love
it's
it.
not a real big town. I don't know what the population is. I would imagine probably 10 to 15,000 people. That
Wow.
probably about maybe doubles in the summertime. A lot of seasonal people coming through here. A lot of people
Mm-hmm.
building like their second, third homes up here now. Alaska's their playground, and they build their house up here and spend a couple weeks, a month up here, and then fly out.
That's very interesting. So, how has it been to have your type of work there? Because it's a very interesting thing. As I was looking at your work, I mean, it's you're not installing like floors that are like practical in a sense, right? You're
Mhm.
what you do mostly, if not totally, is art installation. Is that correct?
Well, no, that's what it appears. I don't post. I'm a tile contractor, so I do tile every day. Um, so I don't take pictures of all my tile jobs. I mean, that's so many. They all look the same, you
Mm-hmm.
know. I mean, I'll take a picture every now and then of a nice bathroom or a shower I do, but I can usually sell a mosaic on, I don't know, I'd say, well, the numbers are coming up now. I'd say probably 60 to 70% of the jobs I do, I can sell some sort of mosaic on.
Mm-hmm.
Homer's a really artistic town. There's a lot of people here that really appreciate art. It's kind of a funky, kind of old. It's an old hippie town. It's kind of turned from that into what it is now. So there's a lot of people that just appreciate art. So that's what's made it work for me, is living in a place that people are real receptive to it. And then just being functional art, being able to
Mm-hmm.
create something that somebody can enjoy, and then it's functional.
It's interesting to have the dual purpose with that. Like, well, for example, the project that you had, I think it was a therapy center where you've got the whale in the pool. Is that the same place where you've got the aurora borealis
That
going on as
is,
well?
yeah,
Tell
yeah.
us
I
a
did
little
the
bit how that
pool.
came about. That's such an interesting project.
The which one, the pool or the Aurora?
Both of them.
Well, those are really cool people. I've done quite a few jobs for them over the years. I tiled this house. It's called the Taj Mahal. It was all travertine, all the 2 stories
Mm.
of travertine, all the floors, all the bathrooms, everything. When I first moved here, and then quite a few years later, his wife is a physical therapist, and they built this aquatherapy building. And he came to me before he even started the build and was like, "We want to do a mosaic in the pool." I'm like, "Well, what do you want to do?" And he says, "I don't know. Just give us some ideas." So, I thought about it for a little while. I'm like, "Hey, how about, some life-size whale in the bottom of the pool?" And they thought that was a really cool idea. So that's kind of where that all came from. It was the first and only swimming pool I've ever done. So I did a lot of research there
Oh, wow.
to
Yeah.
do that. And then, yeah, a couple of years later, after that was during COVID. So that was like in 2020 that the pool was going in. And a couple of years later, which was, I don't know, last year, the year before, I don't even, time just flies.
I know.
Um,
It seems like it
they,
has the last 4 years.
yeah, they came to me again, and they said, oh, they wanted to do another mosaic to hang on the wall. And there again, I'm like, well, what do you want? I said, I don't know. The winter previous to that, we had all these crazy aurora borealis that was going on up
Mm.
here, and there was all kinds of pictures like flooding the internet. So that's where the idea came from. I'm like, hey, let's do an aurora borealis over like a mountain scene with trees and whatnot. And they liked the idea, so it was going to be a really big project, so I proposed doing lighting it with lights. And
Mm-hmm.
originally I thought of LEDs, and I made like a scale model of it and showed them the model, and they were totally into it, and they actually doubled the size of it. I'm like, well, let's make it bigger.
Wow.
So it ended up being 16 feet long, a little over 6 feet tall on the tall side, and I don't know, the short side's around 4 feet. But yeah, so that was completely out of the box, and all just engineered and designed in my mind. all made out of foam board, so we can make it as light as possible.
Mm-hmm.
All backlit with fiber optics. I learned a lot about fiber optics talking to the fiber optic company that I bought everything from, and yeah, it was a cool project. It was like a once in a lifetime thing. For hopefully
Incredible.
not a,
I
hopefully I
mean,
get
because I
another.
noticed one comment of someone who said that the shooting star. It's just like such a great touch with that piece.
Yeah, that's cool. That's just another. So there's three fiber optic motors that run that, and one of them just runs the shooting star, one of them runs the stars, and then one of them runs the aurora. So there's three things plugged in behind the scenes, behind the wall. So that's all
That
that
to
does.
me is so fun. It's got to be so fun for you as an artist and somebody who's visualizing this, and then having to go to make it technically feasible, right? Do you
Yeah.
enjoy all those different elements?
It's just anything I do. You get halfway into it, and you're like, "How did I get myself into this? And how am I going to get myself out of this?" Um, but I mean, you got to be confident with what you do. Otherwise, you're not going to be successful with anything in life, right? So
Absolutely.
I was confident from the very beginning. Like I said, I made two scale models. I made a scale model of the whole project to kind of show the framing, the structure of it, how I
Mm-hmm.
was going to go about framing it because it was hollow, right? So it would radiate the light. And then I made a scale, so it was 4 panels that went up to make the 16-foot mural. So I made
Mm-hmm.
a 50% or a half size, whatever you call it, of one of the panels, and did a little bit of tile on it, and actually put fiber optics in it as a presentation to show it to them before I actually officially got the job. So I had a really good idea how I was going to go into it. I redesigned it a little bit along the way, but
Mm-hmm.
for the most part, it went off. I mean, exactly as I planned. I didn't have any. There was no
Oh my
nothing.
God,
There was
moments.
no going backwards. So that was
Yeah.
good on something of that scale.
Yes. And that's such a great idea to do the scale model just because, like you're saying, it almost gives you that opportunity to run into those areas of like, oh yeah, I didn't think of this, or, oh gosh, there's a possible area of concern or whatever, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, see that the my main thing was the aurora is the whole project is wanting to see the aurora light up, and
Mm-hmm.
in order for that to happen with the fiber optics, they sell a side glow cable. So with fiber optics, what you're looking at is the very end. It's like a glorified fishing line that goes from a light source to wherever you want to illuminate it. So you're looking at the end of that fishing line, and
Mm-hmm.
that's the fiber that you're looking at is like a spot, a dot of the fiber optic. And
Mm.
in order for the aurora to light up, I had to use a side glow cable, and which is the same thing. It's just it's a bunch of cables that are like jacketed together in like a clear tube. But I had a hard time finding the right kind of glass that would let the light shine through.
Right.
I don't never done any stained glass before, so here I am at find a stained glass place up in Anchorage. I go up there, I'm talking to the guy, and I bought a few samples and brought them back. And the cool ones that I wanted to use that were all like, like when you think of stained glass, it's kind of like all modded and, there's different colors that kind of blend together.
Mm-hmm.
They were too dark and they didn't illuminate the light. So I had to go back
Yeah.
to the drawing board and find one that was semi-transparent. So that was if there was something where I was going backwards on, that was probably the only thing. But it ended up turning out really well, because it was the transparency of it really shows the jacketed cables in the piece, and then
Mm-hmm.
you can see them when it pulses, um, and it just kind of adds to the whole thing.
Yeah, almost like the way you would see the actual aurora borealis. Which, by the way, we got to see a little bit of that in Georgia over the summer when it came down that way. So that was a real treat because there have been times where I thought I was going to be able to be certain places where that went on, and it never happened. So we got a little taste of what you guys get to see up there.
Yeah, it's pretty beautiful.
Oh, it's incredible. But like, so now you got me wondering, like, it's always that curious thing, like when so you've got this other side of your business where you do maybe bathrooms, showers, floors, installations, but then jumping off into that artistic side where you're now creating mosaics and murals and stuff like that. What was your first one? And, how did it come about? And how did it go? Those are my questions.
Well, I guess the first one I did was the one I told you at my friend's place, but the first one that I got paid for, I didn't get paid for that. That
Mm-hmm.
was all volunteer. The first one I got paid for is when I was living down in Arizona, and we were remodeling a man's house, and he's a miniature artist. So he did these little miniature paintings, and he would
Oh,
sell them
yeah.
in California, and he was known for that. So he was an artist, and he appreciated art. And this one I was making tile, and I made a fig tree to go behind his fireplace, and then put all these little insects in the fig tree. It's like little hidden tiny insects to kind of mimic his art. Yeah, but that was the first paying job that I did, and it turned out pretty well for a guy that didn't know what he was doing. Um, and then I did a couple for my family when I was moving up here. I spent a couple months in Oregon remodeling my mom's house, and I made something for her. I made something for my dad. I made something for some other friends of mine. So that's when I was making the tile. I didn't really, when I moved up here and started my business, that's when I found that I could start cutting the tile. But the first official job was down in Arizona.
Hmm.
And it doesn't happen overnight. I mean, like I said, I've been doing this over 20 years, and as any artist in any art form you're doing, you got to build a reputation and build a portfolio. So that's what I did. Any job I went on, I showed everybody my photo book, and like whether they wanted to see it or not, like here's what I do. And that went a long ways. I started off doing a lot of stained glass designs. I bought a bunch of stained glass books in Portland before I moved up here,
Mm-hmm.
and just did a lot of stained glass designs and kind of started there, and then just kind of worked my way up from there.
That's incredible. And I think that's really great what you're saying about, you know, showing your portfolio book. And of course, now we've got our social media and Facebook and Instagram and all that good stuff, which makes it a little bit more, handy. I like that because you're putting yourself out there because so many people, especially artists, in the various forms, there's that tiny fear of rejection, just like, well, am I going to get, well, you just got to push through sometimes, right?
Yeah, for sure. And then there's, when you're putting yourself out there for work, you want to get the job because you want the experience, you want the picture in your portfolio. So there's a lot of giving
Mm-hmm.
yourself away too,
Yeah.
just to gain the knowledge, and the portfolio. That's what it's all about, is kind of building your reputation. And Homer is a small enough town where that's what people know me as. A lot of people think that's all I do. Like, you thought that's all I did, but there's just like, I just do too many tile jobs for me to just take pictures of everything, and I want to flood my page with just the fun stuff because there's
The
not a lot of
art
people who do
stuff.
that.
So I noticed that you did, like you're just saying, that you created the fig tree for the guy down in Arizona. Like I've seen a few of those different types of projects where you're doing that behind like somebody's. It's like a potbelly stove or something like that. Has that become like a hallmark or a signature of something that you do these days?
Yeah, I do. We live on Homer is on Ketchimack Bay, and we look across at three
Mm,
glaciers and mountains right across the bay from us. So I do a lot of mountains. I do a lot of nature stuff because that's what people like up here. But my bread and butter is kind of mountains, and I've done a lot of fireplaces, a lot of showers. Working on one now. I'm doing a steam shower right now with a mountain scene and two breaching humpback whales in the foreground.
oh,
Um,
nice.
so yeah, it's funny. It's the year of the mountains for me. I just finished a mountain piece before this one with 10 different varieties of Alaska wildflowers in the foreground.
I
Um,
saw that. Yes, it's on
yeah,
your Facebook, right?
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty fun. I mean, that tile's pretty awesome because it offers a wide palette of colors and textures and just a variety of glass, ceramic, stone, porcelain, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so when I'm when I'm looking at something or looking at a job, or I go to the tile shop, I'm looking at colors, and I'm looking for the out of the ordinary tile that I can do something cool with. Um,
That's the next thing is just your materials, like you're just saying, all the different types of tile, right? Do you have a go-to, or would you say they're pretty much mixed as far as like the different types that you would usually use for your
well, it
project?
depends on the application. Like the steam shower that I'm doing now, I wanted to keep it all porcelain.
Mm-hmm.
So I had, and these people, they saw one of my past mountain scenes I used a honey onyx for the sky, which is kind of a yellow, orange, and white
Ooh,
stone,
nice.
kind of, mimics clouds. And they really wanted that in their steamer. But I didn't want to put onyx in there. So we searched out and found a company in Italy that makes a porcelain tile that mimics the honey onyx. And we went
Oh,
with that.
wow. That's a
So it
great
just all
option.
depends, I mean, obviously, if it's a floor or something, in an entryway, you don't want to use anything real soft or glass or anything. I have put glass in entryway floors before, but I mean, they usually people, it's not a high traffic area. Um, it all depends on the application and where it goes,
Right.
just using the right materials.
That makes sense. And I noticed that one of your uh, Facebook posts that you're kind of like pretty much the only mosaic artist like your type in your area. Is that true?
In my area, yeah, I believe so.
Mm-hmm.
An area meaning the whole state of Alaska, which is a third the size of the lower 48. Um, but that's all changing. I
Mm,
don't know if you're aware of Lee and Jane Callowert with Dragonfly Tile, but I've
I've
teamed
heard
up
of
with,
them.
yeah, I've teamed up with them and through the NTCA. And over the past few years, I can't remember when we met here, like 2018 or 19. It was after the octopus,
Oh,
the
yeah.
Kraken that I did. Anyways, we've teamed up, and now we've started this thing we call ART, Artisan Revolution in Tile, and we're teaching other tile contractors how to do exactly what we're doing. So we put on a
Nice.
4-day class. It's this will be our third one this year, but it's a 4-day class. We take on 16 people, and we teach them, how to confidently sell a job, um, design it, fabricate it, pre-mount it and install it all in 4 days. So it's a really intensive class.
That
Uh,
is so cool. And that's
yes,
all in person, I take it,
yes, yeah.
in
It's
Alaska.
there's a lot of tile. There's a lot of tile things that go on, and they're pretty. They're kind of all the same. And we wanted to keep ours like really different. Ours is a 4-day class,
Hmm.
and it's all. It's everybody's immersed in art from the second they get there. At least that's the way that we want it. We've had it the past 2 years. We've had it in Wisconsin, out of the Dragonfly Studio shop, and they just moved their whole operation down to Nashville.
Hmm.
And I guess the CTEF just acquired a building in Nashville, so we're going to move our operation to Nashville now. So now we've got to set the whole thing up and figure out like where to go in Nashville for hotels and transportation and all that. When we were doing it in Wisconsin, we found an artisan hotel downtown that we
Hmm.
put everybody up in, and then from the artisan hotel to the studio, they were transported in like a party bus that was like kind of all arted out. And so we try to keep them immersed in art the whole time. And it's been really great. There's been a lot of great responses from it. And
Oh my gosh, that is a great idea. And actually, that's driving distance for me. Maybe I'll come to your class in Nashville.
oh, really? They're building a new house and everything.
My
Building a new
goodness.
shop, and yeah, we've kind of got to sniff the area out and find out all the cool places where we can, around the CTF building, um, so we can kind
CTF
of have
building.
the same vibe as we started off with, because that's a big part of our program.
That is really cool. I think you guys are going to like it there.
I don't know if you're familiar with the Tile Trade Artisans Guild, uh,
Uh-uh.
but
Not, but I want to be.
yeah, so you should join that. I think you'd really dig it. Yeah, the Tile Trade Artisans Guild, and it's a tile group that is made just, I mean, it's all artisan tile. So it's handmade tile, it's artisan tile projects, it's mosaics, it's all that, but it's for the tile. It's not, there's a lot of mosaicing groups out there, but this one is
Hmm.
is is geared for tile installers. So
Yes.
we started that group, I don't know, in 2019 or 20, and we're probably close to 3,000 members now. And we that's where we do all of our advertising for the ART in there, because when we started it, Lee and I were kind of the only two people that we knew of that were, I mean, there's a lot of people that do mosaics, um, but we were the only two people that really stood out that do hand cut mosaics. So then since we've teamed
Wow.
up, we're trying to teach other people how to do that.
That is such a great idea. It looked like in one of your photos that you might have a family member who's getting involved with doing the same work.
Yeah, that's my older son, Halen. He's worked with me quite a bit. I've
Mm-hmm.
got two boys,
Oh,
and the
nice.
younger one, Jace, he's helped me out a little bit here too. They're 3 years apart, so he's kind of getting to the age now where he wants to work a little bit. The older
Mm-hmm.
one's worked with me quite a bit in the past, but you know what it's like working for your dad. It's like, oh, do I really have to go to work today or this, or that, and like, so this last summer we said, yeah, you need to get a real job. So he went and got a job at a restaurant in town and
Ah,
is bussing tables. So he thinks that that's the coolest thing in the world. Um, but yeah, he'll still work with me here and there. And I don't, tile's my thing. I don't want to push it on him, but if he wants to
mm-hmm.
learn, I certainly want to teach him. I tell him, I said, it's really smart to learn a trade. Um,
Yeah,
and I would love to teach you. And, I'd love someday, my body's going to shut down. I'm not going to be able to do this anymore. And it'd be great to hand the reins off to somebody, and you could be the guy um, but well, I don't know. He just turned 17. So, who knows what he wants to do.
exactly. And they're always, exploring, what it is they may want to do. And you never know if they'll come back around and go, as a matter of fact, I do like doing this
Yeah.
because the fact that you've got that entrepreneurial, um, control over your own work in a lot of ways, that's seems like it'd be really gratifying. As you get a certain age, you kind of maybe recognize that. Whereas maybe when you're a little bit younger, I myself, I worked at an amusement park, so had a lot of social things, attached to it around that age. So I totally get that. Yeah.
Amusement park sounds like a fun job.
Oh my God, I worked at Six Flags Over Georgia, and I mean, you're literally just going to work with a bunch of people your age, and you're just horsing around all day and after work, and yeah, it was fun. I had a good time there. I learned how to ride a motorcycle. It was a part of my job. So, I mean, can't beat that, man. I still like that job. I can't deny.
Yeah, that
I
sounds
could
like
still want
a
to do
good
that job.
job for a young person that doesn't have any responsibilities in life yet.
Yes, I had a good time doing that. I love that you brought up the class, but
Yeah, well, I mean, the ART program is pretty much it. That's where all of my focus we're trying to build this thing and we're trying to teach other tile installers how to up their game.
mm-hmm,
So, that's really where all of my energy goes. And, other than just my normal job, but,
mm-hmm,
we're just really trying to get other people out there to do what we're doing. People think that it's a get rich quick scheme, and that's certainly not the case.
mm-mm.
But between Lee and I, I've got 20 years, and Lee, I think, has got 30 years in. So between the two of us, we got probably close to 50 years tile experience, and that's 50 years of combined together of like trial and error and learning things the hard way. So,
Totally.
we could teach all these people like the do's and the don'ts, and they can avoid all that. So, you know, it's it's pretty rewarding seeing like what these people are putting out. We've done two classes. The first one we did 15 people, last one we did 16. So that was at 31 people now, and it's really cool to see what they're putting out there.
I can bad. I bet you it feels like you kind of sharing your legacy as you're
Yeah, I
seeing
guess
it
so,
go
in a
through the
way.
rest of these people.
Yeah, share the love instead of, hoarding it. A lot of people, when it comes to art, a lot of people like hide their secrets because they don't want other people to compete against them. And that's not what it's
Mm-hmm.
about. It's like if everybody, if everybody, I mean, if everybody's game rises, then the whole industry rises. So
Right. It's
if
not going to take away from you.
not at all,
Right.
no. And the
Yeah,
more people that do it, the more people know about it because it's hard to sell something to somebody if nobody even knows it exists. So,
exactly.
if there's more people out there doing it, then the more people are going to learn that, wow, this is a possibility. And then and in turn, it makes it easier to sell a job, because more people hear about it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so at least that's my thought.
It increases the awareness of that kind of work as well because, I feel like I'm still growing in my knowledge. I mean, it's funny the things you take for granted. I wouldn't imagine that tile installation would be so technical in a lot of ways. And there's a lot of ways it can go off the rails. And so having that knowledge and continuing to learn Makes so much sense. So, I mean, that to me, I mean, the whole thing about you're talking about doing it as art is so fascinating. So, I actually will be looking into that because that sounds really cool.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Oh,
What
I
were
was
you gonna
just going to
say?
say, I mean, anybody that's in our industry that's just sets tile on a daily basis is an artist, whether they, realize it or not.
Yeah.
There's an art to it. It's a very detailed, um, industry. Like, and you got one shot. It's
Mm-hmm.
when you come back tomorrow, your mud's going to be set, and I mean, you can pull the tiles off, but if you wait too long, then it's a full-on remodel. Trying to get your stuff off the wall, or off the floor, or ceiling, or wherever you're
Mm-hmm.
putting it. So, I mean, there's a lot of details that go into it, and it's a lot of artisanship just in general. And then, teaching people the mosaics is just kind of the next step. And the irony is it's one of the oldest art forms known to exist. I mean, try to think of
Exactly.
something that's as old. I mean, you think of cave paintings, and you think of pottery, and then you think of mosaics. I mean, those are like it's the oldest art form, and then yet our industry is just like forgotten about it. And when people think of mosaics, they think about sheets that they buy at Home Depot and fit together. There's just so much more to it than that. It's like a
Absolutely.
lost art. So we're trying to bring that back.
I think that's awesome because, looking into like some of the history, Italy, other places, it's amazing how, how ancient it is and how similar it is even to this day. Of course, there's been some changes and improvements in the way you do some things, but there are a lot of essentials are pretty much the same in a lot of ways. Wouldn't you think?
Yeah, yeah. The basic structure of it's the same, but the material choices and everything has come a long ways just in the past 10, 15 years. With all these
Mm-hmm.
advanced mortars and grouts, and foam systems now, and all these membranes, and there's so much more to it than there
Oh,
used to
yeah.
be. So it's been great for us. We in the reference manual, we've got a couple of years ago, we've got 3 methods of pre-mounting introduced. So we pre-mount our mosaics. We'll build them in the shop and pre-mount them,
Mm-hmm.
and can either pre-mount them on foam board, on like a fabric membrane, like a felt membrane, like waterproofing fabric,
Mm-hmm.
or like a mesh mount, like a typical mesh
Yeah.
mosaic. And we went to the technical committee meetings, and 2 or 3 of them, and we got it passed. So now they're officially in the book as an accepted method for the installation of mosaic tiles. So with these new materials that are out, like, instead of building a mosaic and going to the job and putting them up piece by piece by piece on the wall, you can do
Right.
that all in your shop, pre-mount it, and then go lick it and stick it on the job, and save a lot of time. So
Absolutely. Somebody was talking about that recently. They were talking about creating a lot of that kind of like that pre-work done in their own location prior to like bringing it to somebody's home. Because like you're saying, it's a time thing when you have to take over somebody's bathroom, right? Or somebody's kitchen. If you've
mhm.
got that pre-done to a certain degree, it saves on the installation time, it seems.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of people are like pinstriping their showers, with like a band, a horizontal or a vertical band of, a mosaic tile or a glass tile, and
Mm-hmm.
typically those are thinner than your field tile. So instead of taking the time to build, to scratch a layer of thin set on and build it up, a lot of guys are pre-mounting all of their mosaic accents and stuff the same way that we do it with our art,
Mm,
and it's practical just for a everyday tile installation. So you don't have to be an artist to utilize the pre-mounting methods. I mean, it's pretty practical just for anything. We use a lot of face tape, mosaic tape, which is like a 12-inch glorified roll of masking tape. It's a little
mm-hmm.
stronger. It's made for face taping mosaics. And, I keep a roll of that with me at all times, and that comes in handy just for anything. I took my CTI test, and I still believe to this day, the only reason why I passed the CTI test is because I face taped everything. um, I was running out of time, and I laid all my tile out on the floor, and I face taped them, and then I back buttered all my tiles, and I scratched the wall, and then I lifted the whole thing up and set it as one piece. And people,
Oh,
I remember,
wow.
like, because I did it at Mud. I think it was Mud 3, so there was like an audience,
Oh my
um,
gosh.
and everybody was just like, "Oh my God, what's he doing? What's he doing?" You know, and it's like, well, here, this, this mosaic tape is actually a really cool, practical thing that, that works well on just a normal installation. And here, I believe that that's what saved me and made me save a little time and help me pass my CTI. So,
That's cool.
all these
I mean, it's
products.
like the mother of invention, is it? Now I forgot what the saying goes. What is the mother of invention? Crises? I can't remember anyway.
I don't know.
Something's the mother of invention. I can't remember the term, unfortunately. But like, sometimes we're in that situation where you just push to like come up with something, innovative and brilliant, which is really awesome.
Yeah, and I mean, everything's not always innovative and brilliant. You might think like, oh, this is genius, and then you get through it, and you're like, oh, this is actually this. Hopefully, this didn't screw up my project. I mean, there's always that side of the coin too. It's like,
True.
this is the wrong way to do it. So, I mean, that's trial and error. That's art, right? It's kind of stepping out of the box and trying to find different ways to do things.
Right. Especially in an expedient, kind of situation. But like you said too, then to go back around and use all that trial and error as a formula to, as you say in your class, do it the right way, right? Here's what not to do. Here's what to do, right?
Yeah, yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
so much can go. That's what we don't want people to get frustrated with the mosaics because it's so easy to like think, to get into it and then get frustrated and we don't want people to get frustrated and throw their tools down and walk away. It's like teach them the right way, teach them, the do's and the don'ts. And, it's, we don't want them to, we don't want them to abandon the thought of,
Yeah.
making mosaics. Um, it's like, something as simple as going back the next day and cleaning out your grout lines, and with the mosaic, I mean, that's something everybody has to do at just a normal tile installation. But then when you got a mosaic and you've got hundreds of grout lines, like all, spider webbed and meshed
Oh, yeah.
together, sometimes, that thin set can ooze through there. And if you don't scrape that out, we don't teach them like, oh, you got to be super clean about it. And here's proper ways to go about it. So you prevent that. And if that happens, and if you go back the next day, you can get it out. If you wait 2 days, you're going to regret it. You wait 3 days, it's, you might destroy your piece trying to get it out. And then that's when people get frustrated. They're like, oh, I never want to do this again. So,
Right. It almost
that's,
goes in that like beyond recovery or something.
yeah.
So speaking of the different techniques and stuff over the hundreds and years or decades and whatnot, one of the things that we kind of bring up is like up in your tile game, and it feels like to me like one of the things for you is up in your tile game is you've created this class. Are there any other things that you'd want to share about like what that means to you up in your tile game?
What up in your tile game means to me? Well, I mean, I think on
Mm-hmm.
every job, at least for me, you try to outdo the last one, and I guess if that's not upping your tile game, I don't know what is. You want to improve. I mean, I've been doing this, like I said, over 20 years, and I still, on every job, there's something that I'm always like, I do that different,
Mm,
you know, and it doesn't
absolutely.
matter how long you've been doing it. There's always something that's, I guess nothing's perfect, right? I mean, you think that your tile is perfect, and it's really not. There's always something that can be improved on. So, for me, up in your tile game is just to pay attention to the small details and
Mm-hmm.
just try to improve on the next one. And then that's going to make you shine. Yeah, I just think that, paying attention to the details and just try to do your best and try to do better than the last one, and that's going to up your tile game whether you realize it or not.
Absolutely. That's a good one. And then one thing we also love to talk about, because I guess it continues to be um, a factor that everybody likes to consider, and that's the sustainability of the different products you're using and stuff like that. Does that ever come into play, or do you give much thought about the sustainability of any of the products that you use while you're doing a project?
Yeah, like sustainability, meaning like the longevity.
Well, yeah, that, and then also the eco aspects, because, there's just, people trying to get more mindful of things that, like, for example, that their children or their pets or yourself are going to be near, like that there are VOCs and stuff like that, the off gassing of certain elements that we have to use, is that becomes a little bit more, um, in our consciousness these days. Does that affect you, and like the stuff that you do and how you like to work?
Yeah, I guess so. And yeah, but I mean, I think all of the manufacturers now are kind of on that same train of trying to put stuff out there, like new,
Mm-hmm.
like most all the thin sets now are like silica free and grouts are silica free. They're starting, like, I don't know what the technology is, but they've got all this new light mud now, light thin set that
Oh, yeah.
instead of sand, I don't know, they're using, I don't know what it is, but some replacement for sand that isn't as heavy, and it's not silica, so it's not dangerous to breathe. Um, and then like the sealers or like a liquid membrane or whatever, you put
Mm-hmm.
down, they don't seem to be as toxic and smelly as they were in the past, for the VOCs, I guess what you're speaking of. I think pretty much what's out there now is, like I said, I think all the manufacturers are on the same boat of all trying to put the same type of product out there that kind of fits into that category.
So you've seen that. You've seen some changes in that. You're feeling like.
Yeah, and I mean, with all the cutting that I do, I wear a respirator, and
Mm-hmm.
unless I'm outdoor, like if I'm on a job and my saw is like set up in a garage with good ventilation, or most of the time I'm outside with my saw. Um, if that's the case, I don't really worry about a respirator. But like when I'm cutting in my shop, I've got a cut booth, and it's just a little room that my saw's in, and I wear a respirator in there, for the silica dust. But it's so dusty, like it just coats everything. So I try to contain that to one room. But yeah, for my health, like the just wearing the respirator, I think if I didn't do that from when I started, I probably wouldn't I probably wouldn't be as healthy as I am now. I'd
Yeah,
probably
that
have some
makes so
lung
much
issues or
sense.
whatnot. So, I think most people nowadays are realizing that, like, oh, even just cutting tile is dangerous because it's, you're getting all that stuff airborne. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so, it's just, you just got to be smart about it.
Yeah, so you got to take
With
the
the proper,
precautions that are the
yeah, proper
best.
precaution.
Well, Joshua, we just appreciate you being on the show, and look forward to finding out more about the art classes and just keeping up with your work.
Yeah, well, reach out on the Tile Trade Artisan Guild and join that. And I think you'd be blown away by some of the projects you see in there. There's some pretty talented people out there.
Perfect. I will do that.